Hi, welcome everybody. It's great to be with you today. I'm your host for the conversation that we're going to have today. My name is Lori Kelly. I'm the Senior Vice President and Chief Philanthropy Officer for the Providence Health System. As a reminder today, the information provided during this event is for educational purposes only. If you have any questions regarding medical conditions or treatment plans, please consult your physician. This live broadcast will cover subject matter that can be difficult for some to hear. For anyone struggling with feelings, help numbers will be provided. And now we're going to begin. Joining us today is Solomon Thomas. He's an NFL defensive tackle for the Las Vegas Raiders, and he's the president and co-founder of the Defensive Line Foundation. As well is his mom, Martha Thomas. She is the director of education and co-founder at the Defensive Line, and also a teacher. And then we have Dad, Chris Thomas, executive director and co-founder of the Defensive Line. So welcome to all three of you. It's just a pleasure to meet you, and I'm really excited about this conversation. And I just introduced you, but tell me a little bit about yourselves. Why don't we start with you, Chris?
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for having us. My name is Chris Thomas, and Martha and I live in a suburb called Capel, right outside Dallas, and that's where Solomon and Ella grew up through middle school and high school, and we've lived all around the world, Chicago, Sydney, Cleveland, and now Dallas, so it's a pleasure to be here to talk about a very important topic.
Thank you, Chris. Martha.
I'm Martha Thomas. I'm a middle school teacher. I'm the mother to Ella and Solomon. And our world changed 3.5 years ago when we lost Ella to suicide. And since then, we've been working hard to make sure no one else has to go through the pain that we've experienced.
Thank you, Martha. And Solomon, on to you.
Hey, Lori, thank you for having us, and we're just excited to be here. I'm Solomon Thomas. I play defensive tackle for the Las Vegas Raiders. I started my NFL career with the San Francisco 49ers, spent 4 years there, and before there I was at Stanford University. Just thank you for having us, and really excited to be part of this discussion.
Yeah, go Cardinal.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Well, it's just great to be with you all. And again, before we started this, I would just commend you on your strength and your care for other people, because speaking out and learning a lot more about such a tough situation, and that's something that's impacted the lives of your family, and we'll be with you forever. And I know how much you miss your daughter. And I just, just to get started, you put all this to a really good cause, and you've started the Defensive Line Foundation. So Solomon, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you came to think about doing that?
Definitely, yeah. So my family and I, we got emerged into the mental health world 3.5 years ago, like my mom said, when we lost my big sister Ella to suicide. And before that, didn't really know much about mental health. I grew up having, extreme, what you would call pregame jitters, or, wouldn't be able to sleep in college, and call it nervous for the future, but really out struggling with anxiety and other things. And, I really didn't know about mental health. And then, we lost Ella to suicide, and, we're really immersed in this world of mental health. And we learned how far behind we are in this world, and how we kind of have this huge stigma around mental health that, if you have mental health problems, you're weak, or if you have mental health illnesses, you just need to push through them, or you can pray about them and you'll be good. And, what we found out is that we're so far behind, and that there's so many people out there struggling, and, there's so many people out there who are dying by suicide, so many people who are, suffering from depression, from anxiety, from so many mental health illnesses. And so, that really motivated us, to really go out there and change the stigma and erase the stigma. So that was a huge goal of ours, and in that, for Ella, and also for everyone out there who's struggling with mental health, and who have loved ones who die by suicide, who have loved ones who have mental health illnesses. We started the Defensive Line. Where our mission is to have a world where no young person dies by suicide, and where our mission is to end the epidemic of youth suicide by transforming the way we communicate and connect about mental health. And we're doing that by we're creating these programs and curriculums with the great help by Providence, to go into schools and to teach mentors about mental health, how to have the language, equip young children, equip all these adults with the language to talk about mental health, so they can see the warning signs, so they can talk to their kids about mental health, so they can be able to have a community where it's where mental health is encouraged and it's safe for people to be like, hey, I'm not feeling okay. And your teacher to be like, hey, it's okay to not be okay. Here what you need to go. Here are the resources. How are things at home? Those kind of questions. So, it's just been a goal of ours, because we suffer from the pain of losing every day, and it's a huge goal of ours to make sure no one goes through that pain and of losing someone by suicide. And we also want to make sure that no one goes through the pain that Ella went through, of feeling like you're fighting for your life every day, feeling like there's no help, feeling like it has to come to an end. We want to show people that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, that there's help, that you needed to be here, that your imperfections are perfect, and you're so important to be here. So that's why we created the defensive line. We have so many goals and so many aspirations that we're going to strive for, and I'm just excited to be in this work with my family. My cousin Ray, she's the best. She does so much work and so much incredible work for us, and we're so blessed to have her. And we're thankful for the help by Providence, and we're really excited to change the world and erase the stigma against mental health.
That's great. Thank you so much. And I know this is all in honor of Ella, and I know it sounds like I did a little reading that she was suffering, for years, just like you'd think anybody that's going in your teens and 20s is doing, right? So were there ever times where you were really concerned about her, or was this kind of a surprise all of a sudden? Martha, do you want to respond to that? Or
yeah, there were some times that we were very concerned about her. We knew something had happened to her at the University of Arkansas. And we were especially concerned about her right before this happened. One thing that I really like people to know is the hotlines, the suicide prevention hotline and text line, are there for everyone. Ella knew those numbers. Ella was well aware of the work of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So she had other friends who had issues. But I never knew that I could call and say, hey, I'm worried about my daughter. Or I'm worried about this. She's exhibiting these things. Or anyways, it's just a number everyone should have plugged into their phone. So that they can go to ask questions, because I never did. And I wish I knew that I didn't even think about it, to be honest.
No, you would think it's just for the people that are going through, but not for the loved ones that are worried. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Chris, according to the CDC, suicide among Black youth is rising at twice the rate of all other racial and ethnic groups. Have you guys studied that? Do you know the reason why? Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, thank you. It is a rising rate, and for Black males and Black females. In fact, one of the pieces of data that we've learned is that between 2001 and 2017, for youth 10 to 17, for Black males, the rate has increased 80% and 162% for Black females. So it's a huge increase. It's not the highest, because actually the highest increase is among Native Americans, but I really think it boils down to one of the things Solomon mentioned up front is making sure that we're talking and exercising strong mental health. We're promoting mental wellness, and that we're exercising strong mental health like we exercise our physical health. And we're doing things on a daily basis to make sure that we're looking at it from a holistic perspective. I also think that for African Americans, the racial trauma, the things we've seen, whether it's George Floyd, or one of the things that we learned through AFSP was, and the Journal of Applied Developmental Psychology, is that the average African American experiences 5 microaggressions or 5 micro racial events per day, and I think that wears on you overall. And if you don't feel like you're getting support and direction and comfort and love and see hope and opportunity, that has, can have a negative impact on your mental well-being. So, talking about it, making sure we find a way to erase some of the racism and sexism that exists within this world, because Black females have a double whammy, being female, then also being a person of color. So I think, we got to find a way to make those things happen.
Thank you. Yeah. Anybody else want to comment on that, Solomon?
Yeah, definitely. I think my dad said it very well, but just the the feeling of not being adequate enough, or the feeling of not being enough, as a Black youth or Black male or Black female, or a BIPOC in this world is just it's continuous. You go online and you see a person of color being killed, and like it's nothing and no repercussions or anything, and it just makes you feel lesser, and just that continuous feeling, it just pushes you down. It's a depressing feeling, and it's also scary. I get scared sometimes driving, and the cop pulls behind me. Those kind of feelings. It definitely affects your mental health a lot. But also, just in the Black community, we're really just trying to the color community really just trying to push out, how important it is to get treatment, how important it is to, practice mental health, exercises, whether it's reading, meditating, music therapy, art therapy, just talking therapy, whatever it is, just, finding different ways to work on your mental health. Because, we're way behind in the community, because, we're kind of taught, to take it to the church, to pray it off, that, because we're already so behind, we have to be so strong. And that's not the right strength. To be strong, is to truly be vulnerable, and to let someone know how you're feeling, and to connect with other people on another level, so you can both build each other up. So you can let someone know how you're feeling, because they probably are feeling the same way in some way. Mental health does not discriminate. We're all going to go through it sometime in our life. Whether it's anxiety, depression, whatever it is, we're all going to feel it at some point in our life. So it's important to talk about, so we can all make each other feel more normal, because we need to normalize mental health. We need to make sure people understand it's normal to feel anxious, weird, awkward, sad, depressed. Like, we're all going to go through these emotions in life. So you shouldn't feel different, weird, or abnormal because you're feeling that, because we're all going to go through them. So as long as we normalize that and make people know it's okay to feel like that, then we know it's okay to help. It's okay to work on these things. So that's what I'd like to add on about the BIPOC community in mental health.
Yeah, I think in fact I keep shifting my thing, because I have this keep calm and carry on behind me, and I feel like that's so inappropriate for this discussion. because in the past everyone's like, why are people making such a big deal out of everything now? We've lived through hard times before. What people, and especially young people, are living through now with social media, and like you said, with George Floyd, and then the pandemic, and not seeing friends, and this and everything. I mean, there is a lot going on. So we can't just keep calm and carry on. So I feel bad.
No, I understand.
It's a hard world out there. And so Martha, what are you guys doing at the foundation to really take things up a notch and raise awareness? And what is kind of the way that you guys are working on it to kind of normalize the fact that it is okay to not be okay?
So we are starting with telling our story and being vulnerable, because that allows other people to be vulnerable and to open up. And then we recently did our first workshop in my school district, and we are 58% Asian in my district.
Oh, interesting.
So there's a lot of issues going on, a lot of things that happen, but we told our story and then did a 2-hour training, allowing people time to actually come up with a plan, and just teaching people about the facts of suicide prevention. You can talk to a student about hurting themselves without giving them the idea of hurting themselves, and how important it is to just have frank discussions. So we allowed for people to actually have a plan, even though our district provides some information, even developing that even further.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's great. And North Texas ASFP, the same. Thank you for sharing your story, Martha. And if you do have questions for the Thomases, you can put them in the chat there, and we will get to your questions, because I think there's obviously they're very open and willing to share their story to help you out with where you're at. So.
Lori, that post just came up is so appropriate at the right time, because part of our pilot that was very successful, where we saw significant increases in knowledge and awareness and comfort levels, we partnered with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And one of the things we're doing as a defensive line is working with the people who have evidence-based data and approaches that are helping us deliver these messages to people of color, but also people who are leading people of color, and all people. Solomon said we got to find a way to make sure we talk about this so folks know that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to share where you're at. And part of that sharing and learning is also growing ourselves. And one of the things we try to tell people to practice in our discussions is find a way to learn something new every day, from a mental health, from a racial, cultural standpoint, so that the isolation that sometimes causes this pain can be lessened. So that's a key part. But I've really found it appropriate that AFSP post came up as Martha was talking about, the training that we did. And we're looking to do that across, Dallas, North Texas, Vegas, where Solomon's at with the Raiders and Clark County school system, and also areas like in East Palo Alto where Solomon used to play. But we have some significant connections still there in the Bay Area. Yeah,
very good. Yes. And again, all these other organizations, Providence too, I mean, we're all kind of coming together and realizing that this is one of the biggest issues facing our world today, especially in the United States. So all of us can learn more about it and learn more about other people and what they might be going through. I think we're all going to be a lot better off. And there is a question on the social, it's saying, what impact do you feel social media has had on the mental health of our young people today? And does the entertainment industry have a responsibility to how it portrays people of color? Well, that could be a 2-hour discussion. But Solomon, you live in the limelight. I didn't see how many followers you have, but I'm sure you have a lot of followers. How is this impacting you, the way you're, living your life as a young 20-something man, and how has that impacted other people that that are going through some hard times?
Definitely, yeah. My generation is one of the first generations to see social media through. I was in middle school when Instagram first came out and saw it to where it evolved to where it is now. Same with Facebook, same with Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, all of them. So I've seen all of them evolve and been with them since, we started using them as, late elementary, early middle schoolers. And you can just see, the effect it has on people's mental health in our world. Just a constant comparing. The constant, trying to, live someone else's life, or constant, not feeling like you're enough. I have to do this to, be loved. I have to have this many likes to be, considered, to be look beautiful, or whatever it is, just always comparing, always, I need this, I need that. And, it takes away from the love that, people need to have for themselves, that people just need to love who they are, and love themselves, because, if you can't love yourself, how can you love anything else? How can you, put anything else towards anything else? So it's just really important, just when you're on social media, to make sure that, you have the maturity and to use it in a way where, because it can be for good. I'm not saying social media is all bad, but, just, if you need to make sure that you love yourself before you go on there and try to compare yourself to everyone else, or try to reach something else, or whatever it is. So that's kind of what I noticed on social media, but, yeah.
Yeah. And Martha and Chris, how about from your perspective, social media? I mean, you grew up without it, right? And came into your life as parents.
I grew up without it, obviously, but what I see in my students is this rabbit hole that they go down with it, and they may go to it for a reasonable reason. But they wind up, especially on YouTube, video after video. I have kids that fall asleep in the night and in the school day because they were up all night. And what were you doing? Watching YouTube videos or on TikTok, or we have It's a rabbit hole for so many, and not just kids. It happens with all of us.
When I see my screen time that I've spent per day, it scares me. But I always say, well, but I'm working too, right? But no, I'm checking. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not the best on social media, but so I'm glad Martha and Solomon really answered it well. I will say I'm also very encouraged by some of the entertainers that are reaching out and talking about mental health. Whether it's Curtis Vance or whether it's some of the rappers like DaBaby and Jay-Z and Kanye, they're talking about the importance of make sure we talk about it, make sure we take care of ourselves, and I think that's really important that they're talking about it. They're trying to way to normalize and destigmatize the conversation. So I think that's really encouraging. But I think Solomon and Martha read a good comment about making sure they don't go down the rabbit hole and also making sure that there's balance.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. It could be used a lot more also for reducing stigma in mental health too. I think we're doing some good with that, but I think that could even be, and hopefully there's great videos on YouTube for kids that are having some, concerns. So that's another thing that we could be working on. But I do think, celebrities and people that in the media that use that platform for education, it's just so admirable, and what you guys are doing is just amazing. So. I live here in Oregon, and Kevin Love was a basketball star back in the day. Played against my son actually, and when Kevin came out, it was pretty amazing. He was one of the first ones to come out and say, and I think that changed the platform for a lot of people who would think, how could he have any problems, right? But we all have concerns. So how do you guys take care of yourselves and your own mental health? What are your practices?
Yeah, actually, Kevin, I read his story on Players Tribune, and that was one of the stories that influenced me to start speaking and gave me the confidence to start speaking about my story about my own mental health, and also just about my sister's story as well. But yeah, the ways I take care of my mental health, the year after Ella died by suicide, I was really struggling, and therapy really saved me. Going to get help and talking about my feelings, learning how to cope, and I did that for about a year, and now my main sources of how I cope with my mental health is, I really love to use exercise, eating clean, making sure, I'm taking care of all that, whether it's, getting my own like late night workout in my garage or early morning workout, and eating clean, drinking a lot of water. But I journal a lot. I like to journal. I'm an overthinker. I like to get my thoughts on paper. Like to have daily affirmations that kind of get me going in my day and let me set my day with like really good intentions. I work with a a mental coach. For my sport, but it also kind of helps me mentally in my own day throughout my life. I like to get into some reading, and I do a little bit of meditating as well with my mental coach. That helps me out as well. But those are ways that I kind of work on my mental health daily, especially when I'm struggling. But I'm still learning. There's so many different ways to work on your mental health. There's so many ways to cope, and I'm going to still experiment in different ways and find what's best for me. But right now, what's best for me is journaling, meditating, and exercising. So those are ways I kind of work on my mental health.
It sounds like really healthy eating too. Just taking care of your body in every way that you can, and not self-medicating and doing things that are going to throw you down a whole other area. So good for you. Great example to be set. How about for you guys?
I practice gratitude. I am grateful for 5 people every morning before I get out of bed. And that really kind of sets the tone for the day. And I meditate. I like to journal. I don't do it that much. And I'm really, I've been working on self-talk. Because we can be so negative. When I'm catching myself talking negatively to myself, I'm like, would you talk this way to your best friend? Would I talk this way to Solomon or Chris or, and then really try to reframe my conversations with myself. But I'm also an overthinker. So getting the feelings out, and we've done tons and tons of therapy. So,
and just, it sounds like a lot of self-awareness, that's not easy for all of us, right? So good for you.
No, but also self-care. I mean, after Ella's passing, I ended up in some bad spots as relates to not taking care of myself, getting the right balance. and had to make sure that I didn't let things get out of control. And so having to slow down and creating safe spaces and using therapy, but also just relying upon hope and saying the Serenity Prayer daily, just to make sure that I stay focused and balanced. And one of the things that we love talking about is making sure we have the right balance on the stool between mental, physical, social, spiritual well-being, and just trying to make sure all four of those legs are stable and equidistant.
Yeah, the Serenity Prayer, we should put that in the chat. That's really a good one, right, to wake up to as well. And we have another question on here. It's from social. It's saying, which we talked about just a second ago, the numbers are higher with people of color. Do we know why? And how do we as a community work to prevent this and break the cycle? So I'm sure you guys have been thinking about that. Any comments on that question?
Just kind of how we talked about earlier, what my dad talked about, dealing with the microaggressions and discrimination, makes us feel lesser value, like we're not enough, that constant feeling, it's hurtful and it's depressing as well. And then just, in our community, just not knowing help isn't accepted as much. We're taught to take to the church, we're taught to pray about it, we're taught to toughen through it. We have to be strong. Those are ways that we just continue to condense and push down our problems, and then we eventually erupt. So our goal is to educate everyone on how bad how the color community is with mental health, so everyone can help out, and especially us to understand and know we need to get help. We need to encourage help, and that help is out there, and it's necessary. So there are some ways we're trying to combat the terrible rates and statistics, and just to let people know it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to get help. Those are ways we're really trying to do this.
Yeah, and I think Solomon hit the nail on the head, and I think there's a need for hope, it's particularly when you realize that there are 3 killings per day of unarmed Black people, and that's just to see that whether it's social media or in the news, it gets depressing over time, and we just got to find a way to bring hope and opportunity. And part of the opportunity is shortening and lessening the economic gap between Blacks and whites, as well as the life expectancy. I mean, the New York Times just came out with an article today that talked about Hispanics lost 3 years versus 2019, and African Americans 2.9, the highest decrease in life expectancy on record. So we got to find a way to fix these systemic issues. And I wake up every day believing people want to do good and will do good, but we got to be conscious and deliberate about it, and not just talk about it, and making sure we're reaching out to different types of people, growing and learning, and making a positive impact on the world we live in, and also the world we live beyond.
Yeah, great comment, Chris. Martha, anything to add on that? You're muted, Martha.
I'm so sorry. There's also less resources. They're underserved communities.
Mm-hmm.
There are less resources available on top of the systemic racism that has been in this country for years and years and years. It can be hard to find help, to find a therapist, and depending on where you live and where you are, we spoke at Miami-Dade schools a year ago, or 2 years ago, I guess, with the lost year in there. And a young woman came up to us and she said, if I don't get help at school, I won't get it because my mother says we don't do that. And, so there's a lot of cultural issues. It's so many different reasons.
Yeah. That's one thing we're really happy working with Providence and Work to Be Well, is that you guys together, we're trying to find a way to get the right kind of resources, whether it's training, but also therapists or resources and materials out there so people can really get what they need at the right time.
Yes. Thanks for bringing up about Work to Be Well, and it's work, and then number 2 to be well. So just Google that, and we'll also put that in the chat as well. Solomon, talk about your teammates and kind of the support that you've gotten from the NFL, and what's the culture? How's it evolving there? and what has been your experience in really taking a personal issue so public?
Yeah, definitely. It's been very encouraging recently, especially with my teammates, reaching out, hearing my story, getting texts, getting people reposting, our foundation, talking about, hey, your work you're doing is great. We appreciate you talking, having team talks. We had the Raiders, we had, little behavioral wellness talk, at the end of our mini camp about a month ago, and as well as being on talks, national talks, whether it's I forgot what show it was, but we were on a show with like 4 NFL players, and then with another show with Carson Daly, and just with other NFL players, just talking about mental health, and it's becoming more of a thing to encourage athletes to talk about mental health, and that's one thing I like to preach to athletes is that the better we take care of our mental health, the better football players will be, better athletes will be, because mental health and physical health, it's not one or the other. It's a total health. It's a whole health. If our mental's better, our physical will be better. If we can think clear, if we don't have, if we're not shadowing anxiety and depression and not taking care of it, then that will decay our physical health. So the better we can have, the more clear we can be, the more we can work out our problems, is the better we'll be as athletes. So that's been encouraging, an encouraging message that I try to give to other athletes out there, to really just work on their whole health and work on their whole total player that they are supposed to be. But I've been very encouraged by the responses from my teammates. The league 2 years ago had a whole mental health initiative. And I think they're doing a better job. I think there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and players still need to really encourage others to take care of themselves and take care of their mental health. There's a lot of unfortunate situations, that happen to former players when they leave the NFL, and we're trying to reduce those from happening. We're trying to reduce those from happening while they're in the league and when they're out of the league, so they're always able to take care of themselves no matter what's going on.
Yeah, that's great. And the resources too that you're creating, and I just I want to put a plug in because I work in philanthropy, and mental health is one of those areas that it's harder to raise money in, because of the stigma. And a lot of people don't want to identify that, I had a person in my family that had a mental health issue. We all have that. Every person has that. And so, there's a lot, your foundation, what we're doing at Providence, NAMI, there's all kinds of organizations. If this is a passion of yours, I encourage you to get involved. You will get more out of your involvement than you put in, and you'll be doing something for a lot of people. So I just want to put a plug in that there's the resources that we have in this country for mental health issues is far from adequate. And it's an area we really need to focus on in healthcare, private foundations like you're running, and just on society, throughout society. We had a question come in on the chat, Martha, for you, wanting to know how you started your meditation practice and how you've calmed yourself down and how that's working for you.
So I started my meditation practice using some of the apps, which is kind of ironic, like you're meditating, but you're still using your phone. And I did find it very challenging and so frustrating, in fact, that I quit several times. Like, I'm not doing this right. I'm not doing this right. And then on one of them, it said, think of your thoughts. Think of yourself as someone sitting next to a highway, and the cars that drive by are your thoughts. You see them and they're gone. You see them and you're gone. It's not that you don't think your thoughts, it's that you don't have to dwell on them. And that's helped me so much throughout all parts of my life. Just because a thought pops into my head doesn't mean that I have to sit with it. So some of them aren't productive to sit with.
True.
Yeah, great. And then how about for you guys? I bet it was new to you as well. Any tips on meditation and calming yourself down, thinking good thoughts?
My mom actually helped me out with meditating, because I would get frustrated too. But the best advice she gave me is that, just trying to meditate is meditating, those thoughts that come in your head, those are meditating thoughts, and just keep going, keep breathing through it. Just let those thoughts disappear like the clouds in the sky, and just keep them coming through till you're at a total zen. I started off with Headspace, and now I work with a mental coach who takes me through meditations. But Headspace was great for me. Those guided meditations really helped, and so that's what kind of helped me with meditating. And then I really do encourage journaling, because it's crazy once you put a thought on paper how it kind of disappears from your head and it's not ruminating through your head for like 48 hours. So I really do encourage that as well.
Or even journaling as a part of meditation. Yeah.
Go ahead. It also gives you evidence that you've moved on from something.
Nice.
Yeah. For me, it's journaling, and I'm not as good as Martha and Solomon at meditating, but one of the things I've really done a great job of recently is just slowing down, letting life happen, and just, trying to find a way to laugh, learn, and cry every day. And sort of the Jimmy Valvano comment, it's just, you live, good days, you live, learn something, and you cry. And so I try to do that every day.
Yeah. Well, maybe two more questions and then we'll take off. But what would you guys like us to know more about the defensive line, about what you're working on? I want to make sure that folks, we've got the website up right now, but just what would you like people to know more about your goals there for anyone?
I would say that, we're really just getting started. We just had our first pilot program, and, we're starting off in schools, but, we have goals to expand past that. We have goals to work with coaches, sports programs. We're working on, creating in school clubs to make it cool for kids to talk about mental health, and to, have safe places just for kids to have a mental health. I spoke at a mental health club in Palo Alto High School, and that really encouraged me to really start that, nationwide. It was a group of like 20, 25 kids, and it was a student run club, and it was a mental health club. And I was like, that is so cool. I really wish I had that in high school, to make sure that it's cool to talk about mental health, or know where to go to talk about mental health, or to have some friends outside my normal friend group where I can be like, hey, I'm not feeling well. Like, how are you doing? Like that kind of stuff. So, we have so many goals, and we're really just trying to, create a better community in mental health, and really have like really good suicide prevention programs in schools and businesses and sports programs. So, we're really excited to do a lot more work, and, I'm sure my mom and dad can talk about a lot more as well.
No, so I think you hit the nail on the head, and really the defensive line is, it's for leaders of young people of color. The defensive line is a mental health community that empowers life-saving connections. And to us, the important piece is life-saving connections, reducing isolation, improving, joy, love, and happiness across folks, but also giving them tools to love each other and to love others, and making sure that we find a way to create a world where we normalize the discussion of mental health. And it's just a normal day occurrence. And someone's probably tired of hearing me saying this, but practicing mental health is like brushing your teeth. You got to do it every day. You got to practice every day. Otherwise, you're going to have decay and issues. So we want to encourage people to have those life-saving connections and discussions, and to talk about it on a regular basis.
Great. Martha, how about for you?
Just hoping that we're able to make a difference through our different tiers of workshops that we're going to be developing, and really giving people some concrete ways to move forward with their mental health.
Great. You're getting some love on Facebook here. And what would you guys, I hope this isn't too hard, but what would you want everyone to know about Ella?
She was, she loved everyone. Everyone that she shouldn't love, she loved. And that's really important.
I'll let Solomon in, but she just brought a light into the room, in the world, wherever she was, and nobody was too good, nobody was too bad, and she found a way to just bring everyone to the table so that we could try to find a way to get along and make a difference. And she was young, vulnerable, and feisty.
Yeah, I would say we're doing the work that Ella wanted to do. Ella wanted to, save and love everyone and make sure everyone knew that they were validated and that they were okay. Ella, as described by one of her best friends, was a human narrator. She could connect, the jocks, the nerds, the musicians, and the basketball team, and find a way to make sure everyone understood each other. She'll make the people who weren't supposed to fit in with different groups, because she just wanted to make sure everyone felt so important and so loved. And that was just what was so special about her. It's why she was loved by so many, and why so many people wanted a piece of Ella, because she made you feel so important. And that's the work we're trying to do right now, is to make everyone feel like their problems, their illnesses are so important and so normal that, they're okay, that they're supposed to be here, that they're being loved. And all those people out there that are struggling, just know that, through the defensive line, through energy, through spirit, whatever you want to call it, Ella is loving you, and she wants you here, and she wants you continue to fight your fight, and continue to find a way to be here, because you're so needed, loved, and important. So that's what I want people to know about Ella.
Well, I feel you guys are, Ella is living on through this work, that's for sure. Her light is shining on through all of you guys. So, and I think you guys you're on the offense, not the defense. So I know you're a defensive lineman, but man, you're offensive here against mental health. So just had to say that. But just want to say it's been my pleasure to meet such an outstanding family, and I just wish you all the best in this quest. It's so important. I can't think of a more important journey that you're on, and how many people you're going to help. And so please, if you've got other questions, we can answer them on Facebook, but I just want to say thank you today to Solomon, Chris, and Martha for joining us, and to everyone listening and sending in questions, and for everybody else that's battling. There are people out there that are here to support you and to listen to what you have going. If you do have concerns on your mental health or others in your life, or other medical advice, please go to providence.org. If you'd like to learn more about the Defensive Line, visit thedefensiveline.org. And please make sure to follow Providence on social media, Providence on Twitter, and under Providence Health System on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And that's all for today. I'm Lori Kelly, and it's just been a pleasure to be here with you guys. So take care, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you, Lori.
Bye.
Thank you.